Hey gang, and welcome back. Just a reminder, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com. You'll get 10% off orders over $10 and help with the channel at the same time. Hey gang, and welcome back. This week, I am proud to bring you yet another EDH gameplay video. This week, I am playing my Erebos deck, Trevor is playing his Freyalise deck, Matt is playing his Ezuri Claw of Progress deck, and Sean is playing Kynaios and Tiro. For openers, I keep Myojin of Night's Reach, Myriad Landscape, 2 Swamps, Silence the Believers, Jet Medallion, and Black Sun Zenith. Trevor keeps a hand with 2 Forests, Arbor Elf, Soul Ring, Elvish Promenade, and Elvish Archdruid. Matt keeps a hand with Glenelundra Archmage, Thornwood Falls, Forest, Reliquary Tower, Spikeweaver, Fathom Mage, and Viral Drake. Lastly, Sean keeps a hand with Serra Sanctum, Nylea God of the Hunt, Sigil of the Empty Thrones, Tropical Island, Crossing Grip, Island, and Volcanic Island. Matt wins the die roll and starts us off. For the first turn of the game, Matt plays a Thornwood Falls, gaining 1 life, and passes to Trevor. Trevor plays a Forest and casts Arbor Elf before passing. I play Myriad Landscape and pass to Sean. Sean shows off his bling and plays a Tropical Island before passing. Matt's turn is pretty quick and he plays a Forest and passes turn. Trevor also plays a Forest and casts Soul Ring before casting Kadama's Reach to find a Forest and put it onto the field and put one into his hand. My turn isn't nearly as exciting as I play a Swamp and cast Jet Medallion. Similarly, Sean plays an Island and passes turn. Matt also likes this whole idea of playing the land and passes and plays a Forest before passing to Trevor. Trevor plays, wait for it, a Forest and casts Freyalise. He then upticks his Walker to create an Elf Druid token and passes turn. For my turn, I play a Swamp and pass to Sean. Sean plays Volcanic Island and passes turn. Matt plays his 3rd Forest and casts Ezuri Claw of Progress. At the end of Matt's turn, I crack my Myriad Landscape to find 2 Swamps and put them into play tapped. Trevor plays a Forest and casts Primordial Sage on turn 4, which some might call fast. Trevor then upticks Freyalise to create another token and casts Elvish Archdruid, which triggers the Sage and draws Trevor a card. With nothing else, he passes turn. For my turn, I play Leech-Ridden Swamp and cast Black Sun Zenith where X is 3 to help quell this Elf uprising. Matt is less than impressed, but unfortunately has to let it resolve. With nothing else, I pass to Sean. Sean plays a Mountain and casts Fairy Artisans, a card I've come to respect. Matt drops a Reliquary Tower for his land for turn before casting Sakura Tribe Elder, which Sean gets a copy of. Matt then cracks his copy to find an island, and at the end of Matt's turn, Sean also cracks his token to find a basic as well. On Trevor's first main phase, he casts Green Sun Zenith for 1, finding Elvish Mystic. Sean also gets a token copy of it. Trevor then upticks Freyalise once more, and casts Elvish Promenade to get 2 more elf tokens. For my turn, having been on the opposing end of a Fairy Artisan that has outstayed its welcome, I cast Silence the Believer, exiling the Troublesome Flyer. I play Lake of the Dead, sacrificing a Swamp. I then cast Necropotence, and paying 4 life, I set aside 4 cards. With nothing else, I pass my turn, and the 4 cards go into my hand at the end of my turn. Sean wastes no time on his turn after he untaps and moves to his main phase, casting Crossing Grip on my Necropotent. He follows up by casting an enchantment of his own in the form of Authority of the Consuls. Sean then drops Serra Sanctum as his land drop for turn, and swings his token copy of Elvish Mystic at Matt for 1. With nothing else, he passes to Matt. For Matt's turn, he drops Spikeweaver during his first main phase, who comes into play tapped and gives Sean 1 life. With nothing else, Matt passes turn, but Trevor decides now is a good time to cast Crop Rotation, sacrificing a lowly Forest to find Gaia's Cradle. Talk about trading up. As turns tend to be when Gaia's Cradle's on the field, Trevor's turn is pretty explosive, with him tapping only the Cradle and Soul Ring to cast Terastodon, who, thanks to Primordial Sage, also draws him a card. The Terastodon does enter the battlefield tapped and gives Sean a life, but Trevor quickly targets his 3 biggest threats, Lake of the Dead, Serra Sanctum, and Authority of the Consuls. Trevor then uses Freyalise's ultimate to draw 6 cards before casting Elvish Skysweeper to draw another card. Trevor then casts Immaculate Magistrate to draw another card. For my turn, I play a Swamp and paying 4 mana, cast Liliana Vess, using her minus ability to tutor for a card and put it on top. With nothing else, I pass turn. Sean plays a Plains and brings out the Kings on his first main phase. With nothing else, he moves to the end of his turn and draws a card, thanks to the King's trigger at the end of turn. Sean has no land to play however, and while Matt chooses to draw a card, Trevor and I decide to drop a land. Matt's turn is pretty quick, and he casts Night Soil during his first main phase, and decides to hang back, waiting to use Spikeweaver's ability to fog if someone attacks him. With nothing else, he passes turn. For Trevor's turn, he plays Caverns of Souls and names Elf. Trevor then upticks Freyalise to make another token before casting Soul of the Harvest, which draws him a card thanks to a similar card in Primordial Sage. Trevor then casts Sylvan Ranger, which draws him a card from Sage, then draws him a card as he enters the battlefield before finally letting him search for a basic due to its own ability, which when you take into all things considered is 2 mana well spent. Trevor then taps Gaia's Cradle to generate 11 green mana and casts Natural Order, killing one of his elven warriors. Trevor grabs everyone's favorite, especially my friend Tim's, Craterhoof Behemoth, and while Behemoth's trigger is on the stack, Sean casts Path to Exile on the Terastodon. Not wanting to waste his mana before moving to combat, Trevor casts Lifecrafter's Bestiary and then moves to combat, swinging everything at Sean. Sean tries to get Matt to use Spikeweaver, but sadly cannot convince him, which, it might just have occurred to me, might be because both players on the right side of the table are playing Elf Generals. Unfortunately though for Sean, even with blockers, he still takes enough damage to die. With nothing else, Trevor passes to me. For my turn, I started off right by casting Dark Ritual and tapping 2 lands to cast Massacre Worm, which tears into Trevor's board and deals 16 damage to him. I then cast Sword of the Animus, and I downtick Liliana to find a card and put it on top of my library. And having avenged Sean, I pass to Matt. Matt casts Soul Ring during his first main phase, and then follows up by recasting his general, Ezuri. With nothing else, he passes to Trevor. On Trevor's upkeep, he gets to scry thanks to the Bestiary and puts the card on the bottom of his library. During his first main phase, Trevor upticks Freyalise once more before casting Gravesifter. Matt decides not to use Night Soil as he'd rather have the mana to fog, and Trevor names Elves and returns essentially half his graveyard. Matt names the only thing he can to get back his Sakura Tribe Elder, and I sadly have no creatures to get back. Trevor then replays most of his smaller creatures, drawing a card for each of them. He then casts Wood Elves and gets to find a forest and puts it into play untap. Unable to attack due to summoning sickness, Trevor has no choice but to pass turn and discard down to 7. For my turn, I cast Crypt Gas before upticking Liliana, targeting Trevor, and bringing out my general, Erebos. I then pay 2 mana and 2 life to draw a card and pass to Matt. For Matt's turn, he casts Panharmonicon, an artifact I love to see in EDH during his first main phase, and follows up by casting Sakura Tribe Elder. This triggers Ezuri's Enter the Battlefield effect twice thanks to the artifact, and gives him 2 experience counters. Moving to his combat step, Matt puts the counters on Spikeweaver, and at the end of his turn, sacrifices the Sakura Tribe Elder to find a basic. Thanks to the Bestiary, once again Trevor scries the top card of his library to the bottom, and in his main phase uses Freyalise's ultimate again. Trevor then casts Vernal Bloom, basically doubling his already staggering amounts of mana before casting Praetor's Council. Trevor is still frustrated with Matt's Spikeweaver, however, and casts Song of the Dryad on the Troublesome Spider. Matt responds to the enchantment by paying 1 to fog this turn's combat step, and Trevor casts Soul of New Phyrexia to help protect his board. Trevor then casts Shamanic Revelation to draw even more cards and rub it in all of our faces, and follows that up with a Heritage Druid, which draws him another card. With no real reason to attack as he's unable to deal combat damage, Trevor passes turn. For my turn, I downtick Liliana once more to put a card on top of my library. Unfortunately, I don't assess the board state and I go for the wrong card. I then pay 2 mana and 2 life to draw a card with Erebos, and, completely forgetting one of the creatures that Trevor just cast Decree of Pain trying to wipe the board. Trevor is all too happy to respond by using his Soul of New Phyrexia's ability, giving all of his creatures indestructible, and I respond by realizing the huge mistake that I just made. My creatures die and so does Ezuri, but since he goes back to the command zone, I only get to draw 3 cards. At the end of my turn, Matt uses Night Soul to eat 2 of my creatures to make a 1/1 Saproling. For Matt's turn, he's unfortunately unable to draw Cyclonic Rift, so he casts what he can and uses Curse of the Swine to take out Trevor's Soul of New Phyrexia. Matt then drops a Phyrexian Hydra and a Viral Drake before passing to Trevor. Trevor has this game all but in the bag at this point and casts Summoner's Pact at the end of Matt's turn to find Thunderfoot Baloth and put it into his hand. Unfortunately, the only way that Matt and I can survive this game is if Trevor forgets his upkeep trigger, but he doesn't and he pays for the pact. Moving to his main phase, Trevor casts Thunderfoot Baloth, Coat of Arms, and Siege Behemoth before casting his Pièce de Résistance, Overwhelming Stampede. This more than seals the deal and Matt and I both realize it, so we scoop it up and move to the next game. Game review time. Now, I'm sure a bunch of people are going to wonder why I put this game up, and this is pretty much the importance of recognizing threats on the board. Had I been paying more attention and recognized that Soul of New Phyrexia was on the board, I wouldn't have gone for Decree of Pain, but rather Toxic Deluge. By going for the wrong board wipe in this situation, I all but gave the game to Trevor. It certainly didn't hurt Trevor though that his Freyalise deck functioned beautifully this game, and he was able to recur, draw, and ramp like crazy the entire time. He had so many draw engines and redundancy effects that it seemed like his deck was almost playing itself at that point. I often see Ezuri, Renegade Leader, as the commander of an elf deck, but I think Freyalise has definitely earned herself a spot in the top tier of those elf generals. Speaking of elven generals, Ezuri Claw of Progress unfortunately wasn't able to contribute very much to this game, and the saving grace for Matt this game was that Spikeweaver was keeping Trevor in check for the most part. I don't know if it would have made a huge difference had he saved Sean, but at least Sean would have been able to potentially draw into a board wipe, but at the same time it meant that Matt had to deal with one less opponent. It's a tricky situation, and one that I often see in EDH whether or not it's good to save an opponent, or let him die. I unfortunately feel really bad for Sean this game. He got targeted super hard by Trevor from the get-go, and that can tend to happen in these kind of games where people know what other people's decks do. It's just a shame we didn't get to see more gods from Sean's god deck, but what can you do? Please be sure to tune in every Monday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video, with a second video popping up sometime during the week. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta, or check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in part by support from my Patreons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below or in the About section. As always, thank you guys for watching, and please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.